Well, hello guys, David Vose here. Well, I'm sitting here in the dark. Well, I got some flames coming up from the wood stove. It's got a glass lid or door, so I can see in. And I can see the fire, and it kind of flickers, but it's pitch dark except the fire, and it's a beautiful night. It's just stepped out, and it was some beautiful stars, and it's not very cold at all. It's like a summer night, almost. It's amazing. It's beautiful. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Well, I haven't talked about this because it's not our normal subject. But I kind of wanted to do a video on this because it's a passion of mine. I do like the sport of boxing. I'm not into sports much. I've never cared for any other sport. Like I don't even know why anyone would want to sit there and watch baseball or football or anything. Um, I like people. I like to follow one person and see how well they're doing one-on-one sport. One of the best sports for that is boxing. I mean, I suppose I could get into a tennis match if I got to know the person. I was rooting for them. But it's kind of a one-on-one thing. I'm into one person and how they can defeat the title or be the greatest or jump the furthest or take the most punches and beat the other guy up. I think it's an instinctual feeling with humans, or probably all of humans, but men pride themselves in the fact that they can protect their woman. They can be tough. They can be strong. They're the biggest man, and they can take anybody and protect you. And I think women probably are attracted to that, a man who's strong and can defend them. So it's kind of instinctual. And I mean, why do we do sports at all? It's about seeing who can do the most, who can jump the furthest, who can run the fastest or whatever. Who can get that little ball over the hoop? Who can shoot an arrow right into the bullseye? It's always been that kind of a competition, hasn't it? I know that boxing is related, people imagine that it's related to the arena in the Roman arena where they would send Christians out to be killed and eaten by the lions. Well, nobody wants that. Ain't nobody got time for that. That's not what I like. But I don't think we should say that all kinds of sports is equally evil or equally good. I mean, the Olympics. I mean, am I into the Olympics? I don't know. Zeus and the Olympians fought the Titans, and it's a mythological story. Do I care about this story in this literal sense? Not really. Do I want to perpetuate rituals or ceremonies? Not really. But I'm into the idea of people's practicing, running, seeing who can run the furthest, the fastest, climb the highest tree. I suppose maybe children in school should have that kind of thing to compete and to get stronger, but never with the idea that that's your final score, that you cannot beat them. But it's always a constant, we're trying to see who can run the fastest, see how fast we can run. But, I really am not here to talk about that. I'm really disappointed. You may know that Tyson Fury was declared the loser. And this Usyk guy that you see his back right there, he's been declared the winner twice. They fought twice. I knew before the first fight, I may have mentioned it several times if you go back, But I was suspicious that they might try to give it to the Ukrainian. I had seen them doing it. I'd seen them doing it. I mean, I saw the Ukrainian fight some because he started off in cruiserweight, and I didn't pay much attention to that because I'm more of the heavyweight boxing. When I watched those fights, I didn't watch a lot of the cruiserweights. I've seen a couple Canelo fights and that kind of thing, but in the GGG and I saw a couple. Recently, I've seen some cruiserweight fights, but back in the day, it was just whenever the big heavyweight title shots were being fought for, I would watch those, and probably more so back in the day, with Muhammad Ali and Tyson and Holyfield and Lennox Lewis, and then that was kind of where it ended. And a lot of people we didn't hear about boxing much. It kind of went away from America. And Klitschko, there were two brothers, and they were all Ukraine. They were both Ukrainian, so they took over for about 10 years, and we didn't see a lot of boxing. Trump was doing the boxing with the Tyson over there at Atlantic City, and then he just went bankrupt, and there were, it just deteriorated, and we didn't hear much about boxing for a while after Lennox Lewis. And then Tyson Fury came along, the guy on your right, and I love that man. I do like him. I really appreciate him, and well, let me tell you about this. So he came on the scene and beat Vladimir Klitschko, which was one of the two brothers that reigned for about 10 years together. So nobody could really beat the Klitschkos for about 10 years. It was kind of boring. Nobody could beat them. Tyson Fury is 6'9". Klitschko is 6'7" or 6'6". I can't remember. Both of them very large men, but Tyson's quite a bit taller, a little bit taller, So he comes on the scene, and he's long and lanky, and he's jumping all around and bouncing and ducking, and he's like a Muhammad Ali, but a 6'9" white guy, Muhammad Ali. And I'd never seen him before. It was fascinating. He beat Vladimir Klitschko and took on the heavyweight champion of the world. Well, right after that, he got really depressed. He's kind of got a little mental illness in the sense that he's a thinker. He's a Christian, but he's a thinker, and he's just like, what is the point of all of this? And now he had millions of dollars. Now, can you imagine being poor and all of a sudden you got millions of dollars? And it changes your life, and he didn't know what to do. He ended up going to some parties and whatever he did, drinking and that kind of thing. And he started going down this hole where he was depressed and he wanted to kill himself. He was in this Lamborghini that he bought with his, wages or whatever, and put the pedal to the metal, like he was over 100 miles an hour, I think 200 or whatever. It's like a Lamborghini. And he was going straight for this wall, and he was going to end it all. And then he said that he heard a voice, and that voice was the Lord Jesus. And the Lord Jesus told him, do not kill yourself. You have so much to live for. Your family needs you. And he immediately stepped off the gas, and he doesn't remember anything after that. He thought he went into the wall and died, but he actually woke up, and he didn't hit the wall, I guess. But he went home, and he was like running around acting crazy, and they took him to a mental health counselor, and he did some counseling, and he ended up coming out of it, and he he likes to tell his story about how the Lord Jesus loves everybody and how Jesus saved his life. And I love the man for that. And he ended up going forward and beating a bunch of other people and reigning as the heavyweight champion for a few years, several years. But he didn't have all the belts. There were, there's like several different belts. He was the lineal champion. And some of the belts were held by Deontay Wilder, the WBF, I think, or whatever it's called, WBO, I'm not sure. And Anthony Joshua, who had 3 or so of the belts. And Klitschko, who had the most prestigious of the belts. And then he had the Ring magazine and he had the lineal. And so there was like 3 champions for some years, a couple of 3 years. So Tyson Fury went into this depression for a year or so. He ballooned up to about over 300 pounds. Like, I don't really know the exact weight, but he was tremendously heavy. Looked like he'd never fight again. I mean, he was just a balloon. And he was depressed and he was coming out of this depression. But the Lord said, you're going to make it. You're going to be fine. So he said, look, I'll fight you, Wilder, who had a couple of the belts or something. I'll fight you and we'll see who's the best. Well, Wilder thought, hey, this would be a good time to fight Fury because he's depressed, he's overweight, we could probably whip him. So they set up this fight and he lost quite a bit of weight for the fight, but he was still pretty good size. He comes in there and they fight to a draw. Now, everybody they say that Fury won that fight. My personal opinion is that he didn't win. They said it was a draw. But most people say Fury won and Wilder lost. I've seen that fight 2, 3, 4 times. And I believe that you should have given that fight to Wilder because Wilder knocked Fury down twice. But in the 12th round, Fury knocked down and he gets up and wins the rest of the round. So everybody was so amazed and he fought really well. I get it. He boxed around the ring. He did really good. He's a good boxer. They gave it to him. Well, they didn't give it to him. It was a draw. But they say he should have won. So they fought twice more. There was a trilogy. And Fury came out in the second fight and beat the living, from pillar to post. Just beat him. And it was just terrible. And it was like he was pounding on his face in the corner. And they had to stop the fight because Wilder was just so tough. He wouldn't go down, he just standing there and getting hit. So then they ended up having a third fight to see who could, 2 out of 3 or whatever. Because Fury had gotten 1 draw and 1 win. And so the third fight, Fury came in there. He dropped Wilder 2 or 3 times. I think 3. And Wilder dropped him 3 times. So again, it was real close, but at the end of the fight, Fury knocked him out onto the ground. He lay on the canvas and he didn't get up. So Fury won 2 out of the 3 fights, and the first one was a draw. So after that, he went and fought the number 1 ranked opponent, which was Dillian Whyte. And Dillian Whyte didn't even get hardly a punch in. And he just pummeled him and knocked him down and out in the 5th or 6th round or something. And he fought a bunch of other different people in between. Finally, this guy was coming up the ranks. Alexander Usyk. He was a cruiserweight. So he was 6'3", But as a cruiserweight, he didn't have any muscle. He didn't have any big, fat around his gut or anything. He was very trim and thin, and he was younger, and so he was in the cruiserweight, and he went through that and became undisputed. He decided to go to sometimes cruiserweights will get to the top of their, become unified or undefeated and so forth, and then they'll try their hand at boxing at heavyweight. We had a couple of people that did that in a couple of different weight classes. Roy Jones Jr., he wasn't cruiserweight. I think he was light heavyweight or something. Anyway, he moved into heavyweight, and he beat one of the major heavyweight guys and he became heavyweight champion of the world. So this has happened a couple times. And there was Holyfield. One of the best fighters of all time was cruiserweight and beat all those guys and then moved up to heavyweight and became undisputed. He beat Riddick Bowe and beat Lennox Lewis. But then they had a second fight, and Lennox Lewis was declared the winner. I guess they determined that Lennox Lewis was the greatest of that era, although I'm not sure. They never let George Foreman, do everything he could do. Like even when George Foreman goes all the way back to the Muhammad Ali days. And George Foreman was the heavyweight champion of the world. Muhammad Ali lost the title. So Muhammad Ali came to fight George Foreman to get his title back. George Foreman pummeled Muhammad Ali for 11, I guess they fought 15 rounds those days. I don't remember if it was 12 rounds or 15 rounds in those days. I think it was 15. But anyway, every round, George Foreman just beat the living turds out of Muhammad Ali. But in the last round, Muhammad Ali he's always doing the rope-a-dope. He just sat on the ropes the whole time, got beat up. Finally, in the last round, he comes out and starts punching and popped George Foreman real good in the kisser and knocked him down. Well, last round, he falls down and he's trying to get back up. Before he could get up and they count to 10, they counted him out. That's how they do it. They didn't want him to win. They wanted Muhammad Ali to win. If they had let George Foreman stand up and had went ahead with the last few seconds of that round, I think there's a possible good chance that Foreman would have won. Foreman went on to come back and become the oldest heavyweight champion of the world. And if you watch some of those fights, George Foreman, Michael Moore, and at that time, they were trying to get one of these Germans to become heavyweight champion of the world. They kept trying to do this over the years, either a Ukrainian or a German. At that time, their big German star was Axel Schultz. Axel Schultz. He was a young, blonde guy, not a real big guy, but a good, they always have these 6'2", 6'3" guys, which are, that's a big guy, but, like George Foreman's like 6'4" or something, and he's like he's got a lot of weight too. He's just strong, big. I mean, when he would hit Axel Schultz, it was like he would rock him and knock him across the ring. Well, this little German, kind of like the Usyk of today, a little guy that just kind of pop, is peppering you with all these little shots and darting in and out. Well, it was a close fight, but they gave it to George Foreman. So it was so obvious that George won that they couldn't give it to Axel Schultz. But they kept trying this guy. They gave him like 3 or 4 different shots at the heavyweight title. And, they do that for some people. But they kind of control the heavyweight boxing, who's going to win, who's not going to win, by promoting, by putting people in a position to fight. And putting them with the people that they might lose to if they want this person to win. Or there's a lot of cheating going on in some way. But the fighters themselves are usually fighting to win. Well, I watched both of the Tyson Fury Usyk fights. But remember, before we get to the Tyson Fury Usyk fight, Usyk's been coming up through the last couple of years and fighting all these people. I mean, a few. He's fought Chisora. Most people after watching that said, yeah, Chisora probably won that fight. But they gave it to Usyk. Now, you can go online and find that line. But they're like, ha, 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 who cares? Because Chisora wasn't heavyweight champion, and it just happened, and everybody just kind of ignored it. Like, well, that's normal. They're going to give it to Usyk. But when they get to the real match between Usyk and Fury, it's going to be fair, right? So, after Chisora, Usyk fights, I think it was Anthony Joshua. He's the other guy that had some of the belts and was a big heavyweight champion. Anthony Joshua's a big guy. He's about 6'7", very strong, muscular, Hercules type guy. And again, Usyk's not a big, strong, muscular guy, and he's only like 6'2", compared to Anthony Joshua, 6'7". So they go in, and you think, well, Joshua's going to mop the floor with him. I think he did. I think Joshua won barely the first fight, and they had a second fight, and I think Joshua definitely won the second fight. But the commentators, blow by blow, like, oh, wow, Usyk's winning. Oh, wow, he's so great. Oh, that Joshua, he's not doing too good. And they keep saying that all the way through. And here's the thing that's bugging me, guys. Not that they're going to do that. Not that they're lying and cheating and doing this mesmerism. Because I already knew they were doing that. But what really saddens me is that the American people, or the people of this world, are so stupid, so naive, and so childlike, sheep-like. They just believe whatever anyone tells them. And they're mesmerized quickly and easily. They have weak minds. And if the announcer or the commentator or all the people, the talking heads, if they say that Usyk was great, but Joshua wasn't so good, then you start to believe it right before your eyes. You just believe everything they tell you. And now, if I told you to go back and watch the fight between Usyk and Joshua, the second fight especially, and I told you that Joshua wins the second fight clearly, and Usyk lost, I wouldn't doubt if you would go and watch it and say I was wrong. And yet, it's incomprehensible to me that you could believe that you could do that. Because I'm in my clear mind. I'm watching from my own point of view. I don't care. Like, why would I care? I don't know either one of these guys. Although I like Joshua. So maybe I am prejudiced a little bit because I really like him. But Usyk's a good guy. He's a nice guy. He doesn't speak English. But I suppose if I was going to be prejudiced, I would be theoretically I'd be prejudiced against the black guy. But no, I wanted Anthony, the black guy, to win. I like him. He's a great role model. He's been a great champion, and I believe he won the fight. I'm completely appalled that here we go again. Usyk gets credit for winning the fight when I don't believe he won. And everybody just says, yay. I guess Anthony Joshua is washed up. they started talking about how stupid he was and how washed up he was and how he should retire, and he was just no good. He was too old, or he was too, he'd lost his way, whatever. And I was like, how insane. First of all, I'm not wrong. I know what I see. But if I was wrong and I got it wrong, and Anthony Joshua didn't actually technically win, maybe I don't have those technical eyes so I could see what was the real thing. Maybe I was prejudiced. Maybe I couldn't see straight. But I cannot believe that when two big fighters go together and clash, and in my opinion, one guy wins, how could the other guy be so much greater than the guy that won in my eyes? Like, I could be wrong. Instead of giving it to Anthony, maybe because I'm prejudiced, because I like Anthony Joshua, maybe it was a draw. I don't believe that. I'm just saying, maybe I was wrong a little bit, but I couldn't have been so wrong that the guy I thought lost was really the one who won. How could I be that prejudiced? How could I not be capable of noticing who's winning this fight? It's so easy. So if I think Joshua won, why is it that most everybody else doesn't? Well, I'll bet you on the night they thought Joshua won. I remember when the fight was over and the announcers and people were saying, look, we don't know who won. Could be either one. And then they announced Usyk, and from that point forward, it's like, oh yeah, Usyk is so great, and Joshua is just, he's lost it. Like, I don't know how to explain this to you. It makes so little sense to berate somebody and say they're no good and they're washed up when you both fight 12 rounds and it's so close that even the people who say that Usyk won say it was kind of close when you press them. But when you tell them to prove that their man won, they can't, because it's subjective. So, okay, I admit it's subjective. I'm a subjective observer. I choose Joshua. Maybe I'm wrong. But I don't believe I'm wrong, or else why would I have chosen Anthony Joshua? If I chose Anthony Joshua, then I think I'm right. And I'm not, after all these months, and I don't know how long it's gone by, a year or something, I still believe it. I've watched the fight over again. I still believe that Joshua won by about 2-3 rounds. But again, what's bothering me? That most people, probably just about everybody at this point, believes that Usyk won the fight. They just accept it hook, line, and sinker. And I'm sitting here going, well, I don't believe that at all. You couldn't possibly get my mind to believe that. I'm either an idiot that cannot see what is going on before my own face. Like, I've heard of fights where people, like 10% think one guy won and 90% think the other guy won. And we all just thought, well, it's just the way it is, It was a close fight. But what if the reason one group thinks he won is because there's not that many people that can think for themselves? If they're telling you what to believe, then 90% of the people are going to believe that. If there's 10% that don't believe what the other 90% do, the truth is probably the 10%. Because they're the ones that are able to go outside of the box. They're the ones that aren't afraid to say what they feel. Now, I admit there might be a percentage of that 10% that are just They don't care who won. They're just, whatever. Just trying to be different, right? How many people do you know that are just trying to be different? That's a small percentage of people. Most of that group, 10%, who says that I'm right and Joshua won, if there is a 10%, I haven't even seen it. Number one, they'll minimize that group. They'll never get a voice, so you won't even know they're there. And the people that are allowed to talk, the people that are allowed to tell you what they think, are all being paid by the machine. Now, it's important for the machine to have their stars, the ones that make money for them. Now, in this case, we're talking about Ukraine because Ukraine is in a war, and the West wants everyone to root for the Ukraine and against Russia. So it's morale. It's a morale booster. If that fight between Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk, if it was a tie, if it was a draw, they would definitively give it to Usyk. You know that. They do that. They do it every time. They manipulate the outcome. But if it's kind of close, nobody's going to say much because they're like, well, I saw it the other way. Other people saw it that way. Okay. They just give in. But they can still control it. But let's say Tyson Fury won 8 rounds and Usyk only won 4. And it's so clear. Well, all the way through the fight, they've got commentators telling you that Tyson Fury's not winning. He looks bad. Look at how bad he looks. Picking out little things that you wouldn't even notice, but accentuating problems. Complaining about his attitude when he's been a showman all of his life. And he's always been that, beat me up, try it, I'll kill you. You know, that's just his like stage persona. And they all know it. It makes them all money. But all of a sudden they start turning on him because they want to make this great heavyweight boxer was the greatest of this era. They want to make him great and then bring their little Ukrainian or this German or this barbarian in and have him beat him. How could they get their man to beat Tyson Fury? Well, they start off by making it look like he wins every fight when he doesn't. Most of the fights he was fighting before this, he probably lost or came. It's not like he knocked anybody down or knocked anybody out. He never knocked anybody down. Not Joshua, not Chisora. It was just a 12-round fight. And quite a few people thought that Chisora won. Well, they let people think that with Chisora. And then they had to fight Anthony Joshua. And if people thought that Joshua won, they didn't let them speak their mind. They didn't interview them. They didn't air it. All the people that are airing the news of the boxing are people that work for these companies. And they're bought and paid for. And they're not allowed to say. So the moment that the fight was over with Fury and Usyk, half the crowd thought that Fury won. Some thought Usyk won, but a lot of people thought Fury won. Within minutes after the fight, once they gave it to Usyk, it was like there was an order from headquarters and everybody just silence. Yep. Usyk's the best. He's the greatest. And they started doing all these accolades. It isn't like they have any power to force people, but they do. They could say, we won't pay you. You're not going to be our top commentator. You're not going to even have a job if you don't go along with what we're doing here. If we say Usyk won, then you have to say, oh, wow, yeah, he's so great. Oh, wow. And the people who don't agree with it don't have a voice. And it is sad to me that, yeah, boxing, that my man who put his entire life into this never lost a fight until he got to this Usyk guy. And I don't think he really lost that fight. But because of their shenanigans, they claimed he lost. And now he's lost his reputation. And now because of a smear campaign, which is going out worldwide, he's a sore loser because he thought he won. How dare he think he won? And the other people that thought he won, I guess it's like 45% of the people thought he won. I guarantee it'd be more than 45% because there's a large number of people that if they're told who won, they will believe whatever they're told. The fact that there's 45% that thought that Fury won means that he won. Now, I guarantee when the fight was going on and they had the scorecard at the bottom, it showed that Fury won. They showed him winning 6 rounds. But then as soon as it went to the scorecard, they switched it and they took that card away that showed Fury either winning or getting a draw. They took that card away and they would show you another card from some other judge. But they changed the card at the last minute. They claim that Fury didn't win 1 round in the last 7 rounds. And anyone who watches the last 7 rounds of that fight knows that Fury did win more than most. I believe Fury won 8 of the 12 rounds at least. And I'm being, fair. I'm trying to be very, very fair. The other 4 rounds that I'm giving to Usyk were very close. You could have given some of those rounds to Usyk or to Fury. But I judged that Fury definitively won 8 rounds. And the other 4 rounds, I couldn't make my mind up for sure. So Fury might have won 10 rounds if you were being honest, but they gave the fight to Usyk. And this is the last thing I'll say. And all of you out there, if any of you saw the fight, will tell me I'm wrong. And I will tell you it's because you don't have your own mind and you can't think for yourself. And you saw what they wanted you to see. Go back and watch that fight and reach down deep within yourself and see if you can be honest. And tell me that those close rounds that you think Usyk won, that you weren't flipping them to Usyk when maybe they should have been to Fury. That you weren't trying to see something that didn't exist. And why is it you don't like Fury? Because they've taught you that? Because they've told you that? You go on to a boxing channel and you look at the comments, and they're all for Usyk. Usyk's so wonderful, and Fury's nothing. Probably because most of the comments aren't real. I believe they can manipulate opinion by robotic comments, and they can take people down like they did Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury in order to promote Alexander Usyk. Alexander Usyk did not win the fight between him and Brace. He lost. He did not win the fight between Better Beef when he began in his amateur days. He did not win several of the other fights with the cruiserweights. When he went into heavyweight, he did not win the fight with Chisora. And he did not win both fights with Anthony Joshua. I don't think he won either one, but at least he certainly did not win the second fight. He didn't win the fight with Du Bois. He went down and took a 5-minute break, whimpering because he thought it was too low. Well, I don't believe it was a low shot at all. And he lost that fight. So Then he goes and he fights Fury, and he beats Fury twice. So they say he's beat Joshua twice, he's beat Fury twice, he's beat Dubois, he's beat Chisora, and he's the greatest of all time. But he didn't beat any of them. At the very best, it was a very, very close fight that could have been a draw, or, in my opinion, and I'm free of any of their mesmeristic tactics, I'm telling you, Fury won that fight, and Joshua won that fight, and Chisora. So here's this great star, this the undisputed greatest heavyweight champion of all time, that lost all of the heavyweight champion fights that he was supposed to have won. And not a soul gets it. Because even if you disagree with me, you cannot say that he knocked any of those people down, that he beat any of them, that he knocked any of them out. All he did was go 12 rounds with them. And a lot of people like myself believe that he's just this little pity-patty. He's not really hurting anybody. Tyson Fury did some uppercuts on his jaw and drove his teeth up into his top jaw, and he had to go get surgery. They carried him out of that fight. I will give him this. He can take a punch. I don't think very many people could have taken those punches that Fury gave him. So he is a good fighter in that he can take a punch, and he's good at boxing and his footwork and all that. But did he win the fight? No. Fury, if the fight would have gone on as many rounds as it took to see who actually won, I believe Fury would have won that fight. If you got those two people in a ring, this is what's crazy. A real fight, if you got them in a ring and it was to the death, it wouldn't be who could knock each other down politely. That big 6'9" Fury would have grabbed him and thrown him right out of the ring. But they don't allow that. You have to go by certain kinds of rules in your fighting. And so it's just stand in front of each other and see who can hit each other the most. They claim that AI says that Usyk threw more punches. I didn't see that. It's very difficult. There's no way to prove it. You can't count the punches. You can count here and there, but you can't go all the way through the fight and count all these punches. They're coming here and there and everywhere, and you don't know how to get an accurate count. But I guarantee it looked like Fury was winning that fight to me. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and leave it there. Just thought I'd throw my 2 cents in. Just bothers me that the world's getting so weak that even after doing this video, I don't think any of you will agree with me. I really don't think most of you will agree. And any of you who don't agree with me that Fury won that fight, both of them, and that Joshua won those fights, and that Chisora won that fight. If you don't agree with me, that just proves my point. Because I know beyond any doubt that I'm right, that Fury won that fight, that Joshua won that fight. And the fact that you can't see it, I just feel like your mind is so weak. Like, why are you trying to root for some Ukrainian? Because they told you to? What reason do you have to believe this little Ukrainian won the fight? Did he knock Fury down? No. Did he almost knock him down? No. Did he wobble him? No. It was 12 rounds, and it was clear, pure genius. They both fought like athletes, like ballerinas, like a 6'9" guy spinning around in there like a ballerina, and not one person said, wow. The 12th round, they went at it, punch for punch. You can't say, oh, Usyk won that battle in the 12th round. Normally, the 12th round is indicative of who wins. Whoever wins the 12th round. There's no question. They even gave Tyson Fury the 12th round. There were 3 judges. 2 of them gave Fury the 12th round. The other one didn't give Fury 1 round in 7 rounds, which is insanity. It's prejudice. Prejudice, I understand. But the fact that these individuals can make you guys believe that what you saw is what you really saw, when it wasn't what you really saw, but what they told you, that really saddens me. That most of you cannot think for yourself or see truth when it's shown to you, but you'd rather believe the lie. That's just my feeling. That's what I feel. I believe most of you out there would probably, most of the people in the world, I don't know about the people that are subscribed to me. I think a lot of you will probably see it my way, but you'd have to really kind of get into boxing. Some of you are not into boxing, watch the whole fight and all that, and a lot of you won't do it. But I'm just saying, I know, I don't know if you know it, but I know what I saw. And when I see everybody going against what I saw, then I know they're being brainwashed, and it saddens me. And when I think about how people can't even be honest about who won a fight, a boxing match, it makes me wonder how any of you are going to be able to be honest about your religion and how it's ridiculous, how you're being lied to, or your government, or your politicians. None of you are going to be able to notice that this new one world government is not a new, wonderful one world government that we should all be praising, but it is diabolical. It is satanic. And yet you'll just fall in line. Most of the world will just fall in line. I don't know. It's like there's something more I want to say. But I've said it. You'll just fall in line. You don't have your own ability to make your own decisions. Your minds are so weak. You only believe what people tell you. And some of you may even agree with that, but will still agree that Usyk won the fight. I am just like, honestly, there's probably most people think that Usyk won. Most people. Probably only maybe 10% actually, at this point, believe that Fury won. But I think right after the fight, a lot of people thought he won. But as time goes on, they begin to believe the propaganda. They're going to take this man's career and spit on it and dump on it and convince the whole world of their propaganda just so they can promote their Ukrainian insanity. Anyway, that's what they're doing with everything that you know, whether it's healthcare or taxes or, going to war or, financial system, everything, the warp speed. Did you know that the word warp speed doesn't have anything to do with the thingy? Why would you say go warp speed with the thingy? No, the warp speed is a plan. It's being carried out right now in front of you. And Trump's the leader of it. And it's not something you want, friends. Please wake up, guys. Think for yourselves. Open your hearts, your minds. I'm going to go ahead and go. Hope you have a wonderful evening. May the Lord bless you. And we'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one.